Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiur Suleiman. The Nigerian Customs was reported to have intercepted arms and drugs in Rivers State with a total duty paid value of 13.9 billion naira. Comptroller General of the Customs Service, Bashir Adewale Adeni, confirmed the seizure while briefing journalists in One Port, Rivers State, on Monday, saying that a 40-foot container carrying 844 rifles and 12,500 live ammunition rounds with a duty-paid value of 4.171 billion naira was concealed using doors, furniture, plumbing fittings, and leather bags. The custom boss also said a 640-foot container containing 1 million bottles of CSC cough syrup with codeine, that's 3.5 million was tradol benzazole tablets with 9.6 billion duty paid value, and two 40-foot containers with 720 bales of used clothes and 144 million duty paid value were intercepted. Now, it is against this backdrop we will be engaging with a legal practitioner, Aminu Abdullahi, who has a special interest in alternative dispute resolution and drug-related offenses and criminal defense. He joins us via Zoom from Benin Kebbi, the Kebbi state capital, to look at the latest seizure and how it could impact on the insecurity and drug-related challenges plaguing the country if not detected, and the need to hold owners of the consignments accountable to serve as deterrent to others. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, Mr. Suleiman, thank you for having me.
All right, it's good to have you. How is Benin Kebbi this evening?
Benin Kebbi is very well. The weather is especially friendly today.
Great. Now, before we commence the conversation, here are some tidbits. Now, former member of the National Working Committee, NWC, of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, Salihu Lukman, has decried what he described as abysmally low level of legislative practice of the 10th National Assembly. He alleged that the courageous voices of individual lawmakers are fading away under the leadership of the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker Tajuddin Abbas. Lukman, the immediate past APC National Vice Chairman Northwest, in a statement titled Importance of Legislature to a Democracy in Abuja on Tuesday, lamented the situation whereby the leadership of both chambers have been downgraded to the status of appointees of the executive arm of government. And Chairman of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has criticized the hike of interest rate to almost 30% by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. Speaking at the banquet hall of the State House, Abuja, during the opening session of a three-day summit organized by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, on Tuesday. Hear him.
Before I delve into my paper, let me start with some key messages. Please, I would like you to note. Import dependence is equivalent to importing poverty, exporting jobs. Anything that you import, you are importing poverty into your nation and you are exporting jobs out. No power, no growth, no prosperity. So unless you have a power, you will not have growth, you will not have prosperity. Similarly, no affordable financing, no growth, no prosperity. There is no industrialization without protection. So ignoring all these facts is what gives rise to insecurity, banditry, kidnapping, and abject poverty in the land.
That was Aliko Dangote, chairman of the Dangote Groups. We will now take a short break, and when we return, our conversation commences. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. And now we go straight to Benin Kebbi, where we have Barrister waiting, to do justice to the topic. But before we go into the topic proper, Barrister, you've had two of our tidbits. The first one talking about concern raised by immediate past National Vice Chairman of the APC in the Northwest, Salihu Lukman, has been very critical of recent of the APC government and its handling of the governance in Nigeria. He talked about the fact that the National Assembly, the leadership of the National Assembly has not been living up to expectation. In fact, he raised concerns around fading voices of critical voices in the National Assembly. Do you agree with him?
No, actually, I do not.
Okay.
I think to view this issue solely on the acts of the National Assembly would be so unfair. We first have to look at it at the grassroots level. Accountability should not be placed only at the National Assembly. We should look at our local politicians. We should look at our wards level chairmen and executives, what they are doing, how we hold them accountable, and how our voices are being transferred to those who are at the National Assembly.
Yes, but he was critical of the leadership because he said they have reduced themselves to appointees of the executive arm. Looking at their interventions in recent time and their disposition towards, executing their responsibilities, which is to checkmate the excesses of the executive, would you say that they are actually living up to expectation? While Nigerians are crying, over current economic situation in the country, they categorically say that they are happy with, the handling of the economy of the government and how it is running the government.
I don't believe they are acting according to expectations. But what I'm saying is that the National Assembly should not shoulder the blame alone. Yes, they share it, but they should not shoulder it alone. We should look at who got them there. It is our votes. During election, we chose who to put at the National Assembly. While we hold them accountable, we should also hold ourselves accountable. The policies they make, and whether they are a rubber stamp legislative or not, should not just be placed on them. The process that got them there should also be examined.
Okay, so it's a two-way traffic. The electorates also have to blame themselves for putting in people who they felt have been failing them anyway. Okay, let me get your reaction to the other tidbits. In what appears like summarizing the economic situation in the country and preparing solution, Aliko Dangote has succinctly, discussed the current situation in the country and what needs to be done. You listen to him talking about the missing links. What do you make up with that?
So I believe the first thing to address is that the locality, our local areas should be adhered to, should be looked into. How people are living. You don't expect people living with insecurity to be productive. You don't expect professionals that went through school, 8, 10, 12 years of schooling, to stay in a country that they don't feel safe. I feel security should be the first thing that should be addressed. First issue to be addressed. Okay. Talking about import and export, we have to look at the quality of our product. The government should do more in checkmating the products that are being offered in market for sale.
Yes.
There's this view that products coming out of Nigeria are more qualitative, when in fact it is not true. It is a case of few bad eggs spoiling the rest.
So you also agree that the right approach to addressing the economic situation in the country, is not what is being witnessed now.
Yes, indeed, it is not.
Okay. You also, because you also talked about, the hike in interest rate. He said, there's no way you can have growth when you have, such interest rate as high as 30%. He said certainly businesses would have to crumble and all of that. Do you share that sentiment?
I do totally. I think our regulatory bodies should need to look into those interest rates. They need to moderate them. You don't expect startups to shoulder the burden of 30% interest rates. How can business prosper in this climate? It cannot.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. We now go into our conversation proper. Our talking point today, we're looking at the discovery, if you like, or the interception of arms and ammunition, including drugs at the One port in Rivers. Now, this is not the first time, seizures like this are happening in Nigeria, custom in particular. If you Google, you find out that it is almost becoming a daily routine to hear that, arms and ammunition have been intercepted. But what Nigerians left in the dark, for is how these things usually end. Who is held responsible? Who are made to pay the price of putting Nigeria into this situation? We all know what drugs can do in terms of fueling insecurity. We also know that, importing arms into the country certainly has an impact in fueling the level of criminality we find in our country.
So first of all, let me start by laying foundation.
Yeah.
In offenses such as this, drug-related offenses, trafficking in arms and ammunition, the court with jurisdiction is the Federal High Court. In this current instance, it should be the Federal High Court of Rivers State. Now, about the effects of such offenses, let me start by saying that the regulating law is the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Act, which is in place. And under this law, several provisions of the law have criminalized and places sanction on particular acts. Let me start by citing Section 11 of the NDLEA Act, which states that if you possess, deal, or in whatsoever take part in the production, whatever, of drugs like cocaine, heroin, LSD, codeine, cannabis, different sentences vary upon conviction. You look at, sometimes it may vary from life in prison, 15 years to 25 years, depending on what the suspect is charged with before the court.
Okay. So
now, Mr. Suleiman, in this particular case,
yes,
I have to point out that the possible culprits might be the carriers themselves.
okay.
So you have to look at by the provision of the NDLEA Act, possession itself alone renders a party liable. Production alone, possession will render you liable. If being found guilty, you will be convicted. Possession goes from 15 years to 25 years, according to the NDLEA Act, particularly Section 19, 20, and 11.
Okay. Now, sufficient background laid, before we talked about, the prosecution, it appears criminals who engage in this practice or, these armed suppliers or drug suppliers are taking advantage of a loophole, because you said possession is the catchword. You must be found in possession of those items or so. And in most cases, you find out that when customs intercept such consignments, you always find out that the owners of the consignments are at large. In some cases, they will run and leave the consignment in trying to evade arrest and so on. So in such, what it means is that they can run away. They can get away with it so long as they've not been arrested physically.
Yes, Mr. Suleiman, in most cases that is the case. But I have to commend the effort of the NDLEA, particularly here in Kebbi. Whenever a suspect is arrested with drugs, he is questioned, investigated, and most of the times he reveals his source. And that particular source is arrested and brought before the court. But in most cases, that is not the case.
Okay.
You talk about possession, but there's another issue of dealing. Whether you are in possession or not, if you conspire with a particular person who is found in possession, you will also be brought before the courts.
Okay, but why is it difficult, to prosecute some of these cases? Or is it that they are being prosecuted but not publicized? Because Nigerians will be wondering if, people are brought to book you hardly hear anyone who has been convicted of engaging in, very, very rare. And this thing is happening almost on daily basis. You talk about the NDLEA. It has become almost a routine. Every weekend you find, NDLEA officials engaging the media, parading suspects, arrested suspects and all of that. But prosecution has been a serious challenge.
Mr. Suleiman, I wouldn't say prosecution has been a challenge, actually. A lot of cases are currently ongoing in several federal high courts, in several jurisdictions, and a lot of convictions are happening too. The issue is the lack of publicity. Normally court proceedings are not publicized on national television or otherwise, but a lot of convictions are happening. I can cite like 10 to 12 convictions from this year alone here in Kebbi State.
Okay. But why is it taking long to arrive at judgment, so to speak? Does it have to do with the law? What exactly is constituting the delay?
According to our constitution, every suspect or defendant brought before a court is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now, what causes delay? I would say it is a delay per se. The prosecution have to bring witnesses. Those witnesses have to testify before the court, and the defense counsel, that is the lawyer or the defendant, will cross-examine them to get to the bottom, the truth of the matter. So those cases usually take months, if not years, before completion. Adding to the fact that there are several cases on the dockets in federal high courts because of the scourge of drug trade in Nigeria. That is what should be causing the delays, I think.
Okay, another concern by Nigerians is the fact that in most cases, names, if you like, or identities of people who are engaged in these criminalities are not made public. You discover that at a press conference, the NDLEA or the custom officials will tell you that consignments have been intercepted, and then, but you hardly get to hear the names of those behind, the shipments. Isn't that a serious challenge, a setback to this fight?
Well, like I mentioned before, every suspect arrested is presumed innocent. Now, the issue for not publication names of suspects is that presumption of innocence, they still enjoy it before being convicted in a court of law. Now, when you mention the name of a person before national television as someone who engages in the sale and distribution of drugs, and eventually maybe he got discharged and acquitted by the court, he has strong grounds to sue the NDLEA Act for defamation of character. So that is why they are steadfast in not disclosing names before conviction.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the punishment, if you like. Is it also commensurate with, because if you look at the damages done by these criminalities, these acts of criminalities, it's inhuman, if you like. It is also devastating when you find people, supplying drugs to people, making them to, lose their credibility, making them to, lose their life in most cases even. And then where arms are also shipped into the country, fueling crisis that lead to deaths and so on. Is the punishment commensurate? What is provided by law? Is it commensurate with what the crimes are?
Yes, I believe the punishment is commensurate. Take, for example, dealing in drugs, whether codeine, cannabis, cocaine, crack, methamphetamine. Dealing per se attracts punishment of life imprisonment. Where a defendant is convicted for dealing, there is a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment. Whereas possession, being in possession of those particular drugs I mentioned, attracts a punishment of not less than 15 years. Cultivation, you find a situation where someone is arrested cultivating cannabis in his farm. cultivation to attract a punishment of life imprisonment. So I believe it is safe to say that the punishment is at par with the crime.
When you say it's at par, it is not discouraging the people who are engaged in it, because we've seen countries who have taken it seriously, the likes of Saudi Arabia, China, and a number of countries. It's a death sentence, so to speak. And whoever is involved in it, he knew that, once he is caught and then convicted, it's gone. So to a large extent, you find out that there's reduction in terms of engagement with this crime. But in Nigeria, looking at, you're talking 15 years imprisonment, life sentence, and all of that, there can be pardon. We've seen how people are granted pardons and what have you. And 15 years, when you look at it concurrently, some can afford to go to jail, face the jail terms, and then come back.
Yes, I have not mentioned this before, but the purpose of the law is not just to punish, but also to rehabilitate. Taking the life of a defendant, any law taking the life of a defendant for selling drugs, I don't believe it is fair. Because that particular person is deprived of the possibility, the chance of rehabilitating himself. But when he is sentenced to 15 years life, he has the chance to see the error of his ways and change.
But his actions have
So
also been taken
with the sentences of Saudi Arabia, UAE, and the rest of them. Taking life is a very sensitive issue.
But then, Barrister, what I'm trying to say is that looking at also the impact of the crime, it's also taking people's lives. Lives have been damaged. Many of them have died, as a result of some of this. Take, for instance, the suicide bombers that struck in Gaza hours ago. They wouldn't have done that without the influence of drug. And they've taken their lives, and even the lives of their young ones. One of the women was said to have been backing a baby when she engaged in that. So shouldn't that be also looked seriously?
Yes, I believe it should. But then again, like I mentioned before, the law is set not only to punish but rehabilitate. If we say that every crime should be punished with death sentence, every minor infractions will be looked up like it will be too much. You have to look at the circumstance in most cases that come to court. You find out that there are extraneous circumstances. Some of these carriers of drugs, for example, they are threatened, brainwashed. Some of them are brought up with the threat. Some of them are even ignorant of the fact that this particular act they are doing is against the law. So when you deprive them of the opportunity to re-educate them, rehabilitate them, it's taking it too far.
Okay, let's go back to the case in Rivers, for instance. This huge number of ammunitions that have been intercepted. And looking at the volatility, if you like, of Rivers State, especially in recent times, there are people who are already calling on the authorities to expose, if you like, or to unmask those behind the shipment of those arms and ammunitions. Did you think, the call is coming at the right time, perhaps to nip in the bud a possible, crisis that may snowball, beyond even the state?
Yes, talking about exposing the people behind the shipments. Yes, the public has a right to know. But then I believe there are sensitive issues, security issues, that should not be in the public domain, so as not to cause unrest. The situation in Rivers, Port Harcourt, particularly, is very volatile. I believe the security agents should be allowed to investigate first before reaching any conclusion that these particular people are behind it. Most of the times, names being offered to the media, you find out that they are retracted because there is suspicion, someone's name came up and he is presented as a suspect. You later find out that it is not the true position.
Now, looking at the position of the National Assembly, they were also thinking along that same line of perhaps steeper punishment or measures against this criminalities, especially drug abuse or drug supply, if you like, or shipment into the country. The National Assembly okayed, death sentence on drug suppliers into the country. It took the legislative processes to arrive at that, and then unanimously they concluded that there should be a capital punishment. But do you see it happen in Nigeria now that with all those challenges, the bottlenecks you talked about? Do you see it, getting into practice in Nigeria?
I believe it is not practicable in Nigeria. And I will tell you what, a lot of inmates in the correctional center, Nigeria Correctional Service, are facing death penalty. Some of them 5, 10, 15 years. But they have not been executed. Why? Because the governors refused to sign the death warrants. So even if they amended the NDLEA Act, so to speak, it is very unlikely that Nigerian governors will sign death warrants.
Okay. As a dispute resolution expert, as we round up now, what would you be suggesting as a way out? Because it's a serious challenges, proliferation of arms and then drugs into the country has been doing a lot of damage. What would you recommend in terms of addressing the problem?
Yes, I would recommend that the top guns, the main people behind it, should be arrested. Because the people being arrested now are nothing but mules, carriers, so to speak. So when you arrest 1 or 2, there are 5 or 10 waiting to take their place. Because of the economic situation of the country, people are always looking for what to do. Some don't mind being into criminal activities. So I believe the guns should be arrested first. You have to look at the matter. You have to cut the head of the snake, not the tail.
I thank you very much, Barrister Aminu Abdullahi, for your informed perspectives. Abdullahi, join us from Bending Kebbi, the Kebbi State capital. Thank you very much once again for your perspectives.
Thank you for having me.
And viewers, it's time to take a break. When we return, we'll be engaging with a Labour Party scribe, Comrade Ahmed Yao. Please stay with us. Welcome back. I'm glad to know that you're still there. Now, just as I said earlier, we have joining us via Zoom from Yola, the Adamawa State capital, a Labour Party scribe, Comrade Ahmed Yao. He's also known as the Northern Obedient General, or rather Obedient Leader. He joins us to discuss the lingering leadership crisis in the party and growing calls for the conduct of a national convention, which is expected to produce leaders that will be acceptable to all members. Thank you for joining, Comrade.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Right. Let me start by having a sense, of this, the impact of this leadership crisis in the Labour Party. Labour Party is one of the leading political parties today in Nigeria. In fact, it came third, in the last elections, 2023. Now, but it appears that Innewi Convention and the emergence of the national chairman of the party and other executive members is tearing the party apart. Give me a sense of the impact this is making in the party, and of course, your aspiration to form government in Nigeria.
Well, good evening. I think it is normal. It happens with all other political parties. Every political party has its own peculiar, issues or problems. But it depends on how the leaders intend to, tackle the problems that involve the party. But however, all these issues that is going on, for me, is uncalled for. And for me, it's something that we have to rethink. Did we really need these fights? Did we really need these issues at this critical time? When Nigerians are suffering, when Nigerians are struggling, when Nigerians are really in need of good leadership, I think at this moment, we Labour Party, or we Obedient as Labour Party, we need to sit together and rub minds and see what we should do. Because these issues, these are the same people who fought for same purpose, that is the good governance during the last election. So they are now still fighting or taking a different stance at just for the leadership. I think this is something that we have to think. We have witnessed how the opposition party gave the APC chance to rule this country, but this is happening. But for me, I think maybe it's left for the it's up to the Obedient, it's up to the leader, that's Peter Obi, to invite all these people. These are the family members. I thank God Obi, I watched him in his same television, was calling for all the parties to come together for the reconciliation. I think it's very paramount, because at this critical time, that's what we need. Whether they are fighting or there is not, whether there is fighting or there is not, but what we need is unity. And this unity has to come through the initiation, through the reconciliation process. It will be initiated by the leader, that is Peter Obi. I think that's my take on this.
Yeah, but then looking at what is happening within the Labour Party and the inability of the leadership to resolve this crisis, including your presidential candidate, Peter Obi, how then do you think you can convince Nigerians that your party could be a formidable alternative to the ruling party, the APC, if you cannot address your internal crisis?
Well, looking by the leaders and his past and his antecedent, it will tell Nigerians that it is not about the leadership of the party, particularly, it is about the candidate. However, we operate a party system in our democracy, which nobody can be a president in this country without having a platform. This is political party. And this leader, Peter Obi, he has chosen Labour Party to be a platform for him, which that was the reason that we joined this movement with a great hope that this party will take us to where we want. But if you look at Obi in passing, he's a very peaceful man, looking at his antecedent. So I think maybe Nigerians had been witnessing all these kind of things from other political parties, but the Labour Party would not be an exception. However, if Nigerians will look at Obi and what he has been doing, Obi is only the person that has invented after an election. You see him going around the country trying to unite the country, rendering back his assistance to the poor and needy. You see, somebody, when I was, the last time I was going to Kano, I go through Gombe and I witnessed and I saw people, tapping into water. Obi, when that Obi dig the borehole, and I was still in Bauchi, and I witnessed this. So you see Obi going to Kaduna, trying, to render back, he has rendered back his assistance to the poor, the Almajiri. So this is the kind of leader we need. So Nigerians have seen, we voted Nigerians have voted somebody whom they think, even though I cannot say that Nigerian has voted, but however, he was being sworn in. So I said that as a citizen, I have to accept him as my president. But what I'm saying is this. Despite the fact that there were...
Comrade, the question I ask you is this. You're talking about, some of his antecedents, some of his qualities and so on. But Nigerians will want to see him demonstrate such qualities by even resolving the internal crisis within the party. That should be the starting point. If perhaps is able to bring all the factions together, the Labour Party leadership and of course the NLC on the other hand, and then be able to resolve this crisis, and perhaps some will have some level of encouragement that he would be able to be a good leader. But that has not happened. He remains silent, and this crisis has continued to linger.
Okay, my leader has not been silent. You watch him, he went there by himself, not through delegation. He went there, he calmed the tension, he spoke to them, he responded to them that yes, there must be a reconciliation, which we have been calling for. You see, this party, this movement can only come through having a party structure. So I would like to use this medium again to call on my leader, Peter Obi. Please, Peter Obi, things are happening which we obedient, we are not willing, we are not happy with the current incident. So what we are saying is invite these people. These are family, this is pure family matter. Please, as you intended, as you've been trying to reconcile, please go ahead, sir. We are fully behind you. Calling on other parties, please to listen to him. And I want to assure Nigerians that this issue will soon be over, because what I heard is that the reconciliation process has just been set up, so they are discussing. It will go over, and I will bet you that this matter will put to rest as soon as possible.
But how can it be put to rest, when the leadership, the current leadership insists it is the genuine leadership, that is the Abure leadership. And then on the other hand, I also understand that there are growing calls for the conduct of another convention. So you think the current leadership would concede easily to allow for another convention to take place? And how do you think that can be done with a divided house?
I am very much optimistic that this matter will be put to rest. And I also want to call on the both sides that please, if you really mean good for this movement and good for this country, we need to come together. We need to come together and put our differences aside to imbibe the reconciliation. Because whether the current leadership are saying they can't go back to the people, but what we are saying is simple. We have witnessed. Look at what happened in the recent election in Sokoto. Look at we've been pulled out. We pull out in Sokoto, in Zamfara, in Jigawa, and all this happens as a result of lack of structures. That's the reality. I know people will not be happy for what I'm going to say, but that's the reality. Even look at between Sokoto and Zamfara, they have about 8,000 polling units. But if you calculate all the votes we have scored there, it's not up to 4 million, 8,000. So this is to tell you there is need for grassroots, congresses. There's need for Congress. I mean, from the grassroots to the national level. Yes, there is need for that. Actually, we shouldn't, be cocked to say that yes, things is going well. Things is not going well, really. These people, we need them. Politics is a game of number. We need people. We need people. So these people that have been looking for this convention, can we listen to them? And I think we need to listen to them, because we need people. So we need a structure from ward level, come to the local government level, come to the state level, up to the national level. The question I ask, Do we have that?
Oh,
That's
okay.
the question I asked the others.
Yeah, if I understand your position, you finally come to believe that what people have been saying, that is before the election, that the Labour Party or the Peter Obi as a presidential candidate did not have the necessary structure to be able to galvanize, or rather get the needed support to win election. Now that you said, the impact of lack of structures at the states and local governments level that must have impacted, the result of the 2023 presidential election. So you finally conceded now that you need that structure beyond just a candidate, because at some point it was said that he is the structure. You don't need any other structure.
Obvious. I don't have to deny the fact that we called for that. We called for that during that election, because people has distanced us, But you see, with the advent of these people that are from the north, wherever Peter Obi goes, and I see him with them, like the likes of Dr. Yusuf Tanko, and I think Yunusa or Yusuf Tanko. The man has just been doing well. And the Aisha Yusuf. And there are many people who are with him that I think, looking at their antecedents, if Obi will listen to them, they know this area very well. I'm talking particularly I'm speaking from my region, because I have witnessed the lapses, which we are not happy. So it is obvious, sir, we don't have to deny the fact that things were not equal. So we all witness what happened. So we cannot deny. Our call is simple. Please, Peter Obi, you are the leader of this party. So please, invite all your children. Your children are fighting. Please invite them. Tell them to put their house in order, because we need this movement to succeed. Because actually, we cannot do without structure. There are issues of structure. For instance, let's calculate Sokoto. Sokoto has pulled about 6,005 something votes, and there are about 4,000 polling units in Sokoto. So we are expected to place 2 people per polling unit. If you multiply 2 by 6, it will give 2 by 4. It will give 8,000. So what happened that we couldn't put even 7,000 votes there? So there is problem. And this is the right time for us, to fix the problem. Because if you continue this way, I don't think it will be well with us.
So are you also confirming the concerns that have been raised by some party members that monies that were raised for mobilization, that is at the states, at the local governments level, were taken away by some people within the party? Particularly, there are accusing fingers pointing at the leadership, the current leadership, that part of the mobilization that was expected was not done because monies were diverted or were in the hands of private pockets and so on. Is it true that there was a problem around mobilization, which was as a result of lack of funding? Some cited an example that party agents at the polling units could not even get sachet water to drink when monies were allocated for that.
Well, I'm not part of the financial committee, and I cannot subscribe to the rumor. But however, whether there are this allegation or not, but what we are saying, it has happened. It is already happened. So we cannot reverse the past. So what I'm saying is simple. Please, I'm trying to suggest the way forward. We are facing an election. We have an election. So what I'm saying is, can we put our house in order? Let's forget the past and build for the future. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, does that mean, convening a new national convention? And if that is to be done, how do you think this can be realized that is getting the buy-in of all the stakeholders, including the labor, the organized labor, that is the NLC and TUC, who are critical stakeholders in the party, and of course, all that matter. How do you think this can be realized?
It's very simple, and I see it with Peter Obi. He went there, he spoke to the both parties, and he's going to bring the solution. And the solution is we need the structure. Nothing else. We need the structure, and that's the reality. So I think whether it is the convention or not, but what we are saying, let there be a World Congress. Let there be a local government election. Let there be a state election. Let's have a full structure. That's what we have, especially here in the north. The politics is local. It is not about going there, displaying dictions and what have you. It's about reaching to the grassroots. So this world level, this World Congress is very, very essential. This is very essential. We cannot do without it.
So where do you place...
So that's what I'm saying.
Right. So finally, where do you place the also insinuations that your party presidential candidate in 2023, Peter Obi, may likely dump the party and switch to perhaps his former party, the PDP, looking at the crisis rocking the Labour Party? Is it true? And if it is true, how do you think that would add up, to his quest, to become president in 2027?
Well, I think I'm not privileged to have this information because if it is real, then this tells you how good the man is. It appears that different political parties are trying to engage him, but I'm not in a better position to speak about that because there is somebody who is better. Who is in a better position to respond to this issue. But what I'm saying, I'm looking for inclusivity. I'm looking for all the stakeholders to put their hands on desk, to rub their minds, put their differences aside, to look for solution to these current unnecessary things that is happening in the party.
Right, okay. Thank you very much, Comrade Ahmad Ya'u, for your perspectives on the lingering crisis in the Labour Party and the growing calls for national convention. You joined us all the way from Yola, the Adamawa State capital. Thank you very much once again for being part of the show.
Thank you. It is my pleasure. I'm grateful.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's edition of Daily Politics. You can join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another interesting topic and personalities. And you can also, join us on Friday, where we will open our telephone lines for you to comment on national issues. Before then, I'm Shafiu Suleiman, thanking you for staying with us. Good evening.